Hi, everybody. It's Billy with you once again on this December 8th, 2014 day. But now, before we get started with this video, I hope you guys like my haircut that I got last night. Now, for those who are wondering, am I bald? Well, the answer to that question is no. So, hope you guys like my haircut and hope you guys can figure out I'm not bald and that sort of thing, even though I'm not. But who cares? But anyway, it's now time for me to give you my 2014-2015 college football bowl game predictions, which I'm gonna screen share right now. So we have a lot of games that we have for this year's college football bowl game, which guys, we're now in our first year. We're now on our first year of the college football playoff. So we're going to get started with our first bowl game of this year's bowl series, which includes which so the first of our bowl the bowl games are as follows, and my predictions are as follows. First off, we have the R plus L Carriers New Orleans Bowl, which is from the Mercedes-Benz Superdome in New Orleans, which will take place Saturday, December 20th at 11 a.m. Eastern on ESPN. That's between Nevada and Louisiana Lafayette. Well, I'm not really a big fan of either of those teams, but if I had to pick one team, that had to be Nevada. And so I think Nevada is going to win the New Orleans Bowl by a final score of 25-20. So that's pretty good. Not kind of a close game. Next up, we have the Gildan New Mexico Bowl between Utah State and the University of Texas El Paso. From Albuquerque, New Mexico, University Stadium, Saturday, December 22-20 Eastern on ESPN. And for me, I have to go with not Utah State, but the University of Texas El Paso. Final score 26-24 in overtime. And so that's pretty good game by my opinion. So that's kind of okay. Next up, we have the Royal Purple Las Vegas Bowl between number 22 Utah and Colorado State from Sandboy Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada. Saturday, December 23, 30 p.m. Eastern on ABC. And by my opinion, I think since Jim McElwain left to Colorado State to become the head coach for the University of Florida, I have to pick Colorado State to win the Las Vegas Bowl by a final score of 24-0. So I think Colorado State's going to win it. Next up, we have the famous Idaho Potato Bowl between Western Michigan and Air Force. That's Saturday, December 25, 45 p.m. Eastern Time from Bronco Stadium in Boise, Idaho. That'll be on ESPN. And that by my prediction will have to be Air Force winning the Potato Bowl by a final score of 26-25. I think on a Hail Mary. Next up, we have the Raycon Mia Camellia Bowl between South Alabama and Bowling Green from the Crampton Bowl in Montgomery, Alabama. Saturday, December 29, 15 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. It's kind of a close call, but I have to go with Bowling Green by a final score of 22-19 on the last second field goal. Next up, we have a new bowl. We have two new bowl games that were added to our bowls. We have the Miami Peach Bowl between BYU and Memphis from Marlins Park in Miami, Florida, which is home of the Miami Marlins. That is Saturday, December 22nd at 2 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. And by my opinion, I have to go with Memphis. And you want to know why? Because whoever with the WWE Hall of Famer that lives in Memphis, that is from Memphis, Tennessee, is WWE Hall of Famer and Jerry the King Lawler. So, but my opinion, I think Jerry the King Lawler might be in Marlins Park for that game, but you never know. But it's probably not going to be at the bowl game because it's still going to be broadcasting in that the December 22nd episode of Monday Night Raw. But for me, I still have to go with Memphis by a final score of 26-20 in overtime. All right, next up we have the Boca Raton Bowl between Marshall, the Conference USA champion, against Northern Illinois from Boca and FAU Stadium in Boca Raton, Florida. And speaking of FAU, that's where my good friend A. Pilsonitis goes to school. So this bowl is for you, Alex. And that is again, it's between Marshall, the Conference USA champion, against Northern Illinois. That's Tuesday, December 23rd at 6 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. And that game, and by my opinion, I think Northern Illinois will win the game by a final score of 15-10. All right, next up we have the San Diego County CU Credit Union Poinsettia Bowl between Navy and San Diego State from Qualcomm Stadium in San Diego, California, Tuesday, December 23rd, 9:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. And I have to go with Navy in that game in blowout fashion. Final score 60-0. Next up, we had the Bahamas Bowl. We had the Bahamas Bowl presented by Popeyes between Central Michigan and Western Kentucky University from Nassau, Bahamas, Thomas Robinson Stadium, Wednesday, December 20th, Christmas Eve at noon on ESPN. And I have to go with WKU. Final score 25-21. Next up, we have the Sheraton Hawaii Bowl between Fresno State and Rice from Honolulu, Hawaii, Aloha Stadium, Christmas Eve, 8 p.m. on ESPN. And by my opinion, I think Fresno State will win the game by a final score 25-24. Why? Because their baseball team in 2008 won the College World Series, so I have to go with Fresno State. Next up, we have the Zaxby's Heart of Dallas Bowl between Illinois and Louisiana Tech from Commonwealth Stadium in Dallas, Texas, home of former Georgia Bulldog quarterback Matthew Stafford. And that's between Illinois and Louisiana Tech, which is Friday, December 26th, 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. And that is between Illinois and Louisiana Tech. And I have to go with the team out of the Big Ten, the Illinois Fighting Illini. Final score 22-7. Next up, we have the Quick Lane Bowl, Friday, December 26th, 4:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN from Ford Field in Detroit, Michigan, between Rutgers and North Carolina. Well, I might not like North Carolina, but because they're in the ACC, I have to go with North Carolina by a final score of 26-20 in overtime. So that's what it is. All right, next up we have the Bitcoin St. Petersburg Bowl from the Trop in home of the Tampa Bay Rays. Friday, December 26th, 8 p.m. Eastern on ESPN between NC State and the American Conference champion UCF. Well, since my sister and her husband went to UCF, I have to go with UCF by a final score 25-21. Next up, we have the Military Bowl between Cincinnati and Virginia Tech from Annapolis, Maryland, and at the Navy Marine Corps Stadium, Saturday, December 27, 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. And I have to go with Virginia Tech by a final score of 16-10. And you guessed it, in overtime. Next up, we had the Hyundai Sun Bowl between Arizona State and Duke from Mount Paso, Texas at Sun Bowl Stadium, Saturday, December 27th at 2 p.m. Eastern on CBS. And yes, Vern Lundquist, Gary Danielson, and Allie LaForce will be calling that game. And by my opinion, since one of my uncles went to Duke, and he's still a Blue Devil, so I have to go with Duke. By final score, 30-19. Now we have the Duck Commander Independence Bowl between Miami and South Carolina from Shreveport, Louisiana Independence Stadium, Saturday, December 27th, 30 p.m. Eastern on ABC. And by my opinion, I have to go, well, before I pick my prediction, well, you know what? I'm going to have to pick my prediction by my hands. It's all about the U. I'm going with Miami by a final score of 16-7. Next up, we have the new era Pinstripe Bowl from Bronx, New York, Yankee Stadium. The Yankees! Between Boston College and Penn State from Yankee Stadium, Saturday, December 27, 4:30 p.m. Eastern on the worldwide leader in sports, ESPN. And I'm going with Penn State by a final score of 16-12. Why? Because I'm wanting Penn State to win our former head coach who passed away, Mr. Joe Paterno. So Joe Paterno was a great guy, I should say. All right, next up, the National University Holiday Bowl from Qualcomm Stadium in San Diego, California, Saturday, December 27th, 8 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. That is between Nebraska and USC. Well, my friend, the color Paul lives in Omaha, Nebraska. So, Paul, this is for you, man. Go Big Red. I'm going with Nebraska. My prediction is Nebraska will win the game by a final score of 25-21. Next up, we had the AutoZone Liberty Bowl between Texas A&M and West Virginia from Liberty Stadium in Memphis, Tennessee, Monday, December 29, 2 p.m. on ESPN. And by my opinion, I have to go with Texas A&M. Why? Giant football and the Yell Leaders. Texas A&M will win by a final score of 56-24 in dominant fashion. Next up, we have the Russell Athletic Bowl from Florida Citrus Bowl in Wayne Brady's hometown of Orlando, Florida, with Monday, December 29, 5:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN, between Clemson and Oklahoma. And by my opinion, Boomer Sooner. Oklahoma's going to win the game by a final score of 24-7. Next up, we have the AppleCare Texas Bowl between Arkansas and Texas. That's at NRG Stadium in Houston, Monday, December 29th, 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. And by my opinion, I have to go with Arkansas, final score 24-20. And and because they're one of the teams in the SEC. So that's what happened. That's what's going to happen. Okay. Next up, we have Franklin American Mortgage Music City Bowl from Nashville, Tennessee, from LP Field. Tuesday, December 30th, 3 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. That is between Notre Dame and 23rd ranked LSU. And by my opinion, I am going to go with Notre Dame in an upset by a final score of 22-17. Next up, we have the Belk Bowl between Georgia and Louisville. Charlotte, North Carolina, Bank of America Stadium, December 30th, 6:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. And by my opinion, go Dogs! I'm going with Georgia by a final score of 22-20 in overtime. Next up, we had the Foster Farms Bowl between Maryland and Stanford, Santa Clara, California, Levi's Stadium. Tuesday, December 30th, 10 p.m. Eastern, ESPN. And I have to go with Maryland on this game because they're in since they left the ACC and they're now in the Big Ten, so I have to go with Maryland. Next up, we have the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl between Ole Miss and TCU from Atlanta, Georgia, the Georgia Dome. Wednesday, New Year's Eve, 12:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. And by my opinion, I am glad to go with TCU in an upset. Final score 24-17. And next up, we have the Vizio Fiesta Bowl between Boise State and Arizona. University of Phoenix Stadium in Glendale, Arizona, New Year's Eve, 4 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. And by my opinion, Boise State won the Fiesta Bowl in 2007 in overtime against Oklahoma on a huge Statue of Liberty, which one of the players and one of the Boise State players and one of the Boise State cheerleaders had a marriage proposal, and now the Boise State player and the Boise State cheerleader are now married. So one congratulations to that Boise State University couple. So I have to go with Boise State by a final score of on another Statue of Liberty play in overtime by a final score of 24-20. I mean, no, not 24-20, but 17-16. Or, yeah, 17-16. And then next up, we have the Capital One Orange Bowl between Mississippi State and Georgia Tech. Miami Gardens, Florida, Sun Life Stadium, New Year's Eve on ESPN. And by my opinion, I have to go with Georgia Tech to win in an upset final score 22-19. And after that game, I'm turning to ABC for Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve, and I'm counting down to 2015. And hopefully you guys will join. I hope you guys will join me as I do a very special video on Facebook, counting down to the new year, or I'm possibly on Facebook. So hope you guys can join me. Next up, we have the Outback Bowl, to kick off the new year, between Auburn and Wisconsin. Raymond James Stadium at Tampa, Florida, home of the USF Bulls and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's Thursday, New Year's Day at noon Eastern on ESPN2 between Wisconsin and Auburn. And I am going to have to go with War Eagle Auburn by a final score of 22-0. All right, next up. Next up, we have the Goodyear Cotton Bowl between Michigan State and Baylor. And that is between Michigan State and Baylor, as I said, and that is at Arlington Stadium, Arlington, Texas. I meant AT&T Stadium, New Year's Day, 12:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. And that is, and by my opinion, I think Baylor is going to win the game by a final score of 24-7. Next up, we had the Buffalo Wild Wings Citrus Bowl in Orlando Citrus Bowl Stadium in Orlando, Florida, and that is New Year's Day, 1 p.m. on ABC. And by my opinion, I think Missouri is going to win the game by a final score of 22-0. Next up, the 101st Rose Bowl game. Yep, 100 Rose Bowl game number 101 between Oregon and Florida State from the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California, New Year's Day, 4:30 p.m. on ESPN. And just for the record, find it. Just for the record, I'm going to show you who I'm going to be picking by way of my shirts. Hold on 1 second. Hold on, guys. Let me just get everything everything in motion here before I made my pick of the Rose Bowl game. Yep, you guessed it. I'm rooting for Oregon. Yep, Oregon's going to win the game by a final score of 22-0 in an upset. Yep, so Oregon's going to win the 101st Rose Bowl game by a final score of 22-0 in an upset. All right, moving on. Next up, we have the All-State Sugar Bowl between Alabama, top-ranked Alabama, and Ohio and fourth-ranked Ohio State from the Mercedes-Benz Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana. New Year's Day, 8:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Now I'm going with Roll Tide. Alabama's going to win it, and Urban Meyer will have another loss as head coach of Ohio State. Final score: Alabama 22, Ohio State 14. Next up, we had the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl from M&G Carter Stadium in Fort Worth, Texas, January 2nd at noon on ESPN between Houston and Pittsburgh. And by my opinion, I had to go with Pittsburgh by a final score of 16-14. Next up, we have the Tax Slayer Bowl at Everbank Field in Jacksonville, Florida, Friday, January 2nd, 3:20 p.m. Eastern on ESPN between Iowa and Tennessee. And by my prediction, I'm going with the University of Iowa Hawkeyes final score 24-0. All right, we got a few more to go. Next up we have the Valor Alamo Bowl between Kansas State and UCLA from the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, 6:45 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Kansas State winning the game by a final score of 45-0 in dominant fashion. All right. Next up, we have the Ticket C Cactus Bowl between Washington and Oklahoma State, Tempe, Arizona, Sun Devil Stadium. January 2nd, 10:15 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Now I have to go with Washington with the Washington Huskies winning the game by a final score of 22-20. All right, next up, we have the Birmingham Bowl from Legion Field in Birmingham, Alabama, Saturday, January 3rd at noon on ESPN. That is between East Carolina and, in my opinion, I don't think East Carolina is going to win. Is going to be a tough challenge for in the Birmingham Bowl. So by my prediction, I think the Gators are going to win the ball game by a final score of 42-17. But I think A plus 9 is going to go with East Carolina. So who we'll be rooting for East Carolina, but I got Florida. But whoever wins, whoever wins will be very happy. All right, next up we have the GoDaddy Bowl between the Toledo and Arkansas State. Mobile, Alabama, Live People's Stadium, January 4th, 9 p.m. Eastern, ESPN. And I'm going to have to go with Holy Toledo by a final score of 45. And finally, we have the college football championship game, the college football